Find the derivative of f of t equals the cosine of the square root of t times t plus 4 quantity cubed. F of t here is the cosine of an entire expression, which itself is a product of square root of t and t plus 4 quantity cubed. That means we will be making use of the chain rule as well as the product rule. But we start with the derivative of the outermost function here, and that happens to be the cosine. So our derivative, f prime of t, will be the derivative of cosine negative sine, leave the inside alone, exactly as you see it, and now multiply by the derivative of the inside to complete the chain rule. Well, the inside is a product of t to the 1/2 times t plus 4 quantity cubed. And so the derivative of the inside will involve the product rule. And it will be the derivative of the first of the inside, and that will be bring the power down, subtract 1 from it, so it'll be 1/2 minus 1, or I'll call that 2/2. Derivative of the first times the second left alone plus the first left alone times the derivative of the second. Now the second is the t plus 4 quantity cubed. So we're going to bring the power down, subtract 1 from it, and then multiply by the derivative of the inside. Well, the derivative of the inside for that one is just going to be a 1. And that completes our product rule for the derivative of the inside of the original trig function for the chain rule. Our next steps are going to involve just simplifying our result that we have here. So f prime of t will equal to, we have negative sine of, that t to the 1/2 I'll rewrite as just square root of t, and t plus 4 quantity cubed. In the square brackets here we will have 1/2 t to the 1 minus 2, which is negative 1/2, t plus 4 cubed, plus t to the 1/2 times the 3 times t plus 4 squared, and times the 1 won't change that at all. So I'm going to have the negative sine of the square root of t times t plus 4 cubed. In this first term here, I have a negative exponent, so I'm going to move that to the denominator. This is going to move to the denominator, which means it'll move down there with the 2 that's already in the denominator. And the numerator will be what's left over, which is a 1 and a t plus 4 cubed. Those will stay in the numerator. 1 times t plus 4 cubed will just be t plus 4 cubed. And down in the denominator we will have 2t to the 1/2. The second term I'm going to put the 3 first, and it'll be t to the 1/2, and then t plus 4 squared. Now in our next step, we're going to need to get a common denominator between these terms because we want to combine them to a single fraction. Well, the second term, all of this, doesn't have a denominator right now. We need to match the denominator, so I'm going to multiply it by 2t to the 1/2 over 2t to the 1/2 to produce the common denominator in there. F prime of t will now be negative sine of the square root of t times t plus 4 quantity cubed times. Now what we have is a t plus 4 cubed plus, now when we go and multiply this numerator out, I'm going to multiply this stuff times this stuff. Now that 3 and that 2 can multiply to become a 6. And the t to the 1/2 and the t to the 1/2 can multiply. You add the exponents, 1/2 plus 1/2 is 1, so it'll just be t to the first power. And you also have the t plus 4 squared. All of this is over that common denominator of 2t to the 1/2. The next thing I can do is start to factor the numerator because I have powers of t plus 4. I have a power of 3 there and a power of 2 there. I can take out the lower power, which is the power of 2. So I will have a t plus 4 to the power of 2 factored out. Now, if we factor out a t plus 4 to the power of 2, that's going to take away 2 of the 3 here, and it's going to take away all of that. And there's what we will have left over. It looks like we'll be left with a t plus 4 and then plus a 6t. All this is over 2t to the 1/2. Now I'm going to write that t to the 1/2 as t to the first power and second root, or just square root of t. It just looks a little nicer than in that denominator. So f prime of t equals to negative sine of the square root of t times t plus 4 quantity cubed times t plus 4 quantity squared times, and what's left in the numerator, I'm going to add like terms together up here. Well, the t and the 6t can add together and become a 7t. So we'll have 7t plus 4, and then all of that divided by 2 square root of t. Everything's multiplying here, so it's customary to usually write the power functions before the trig functions. So now I'm going to start to move these power functions. Here's my numerator power functions. I'll move them after this minus here, but into the front of that sine function. So I will have a negative. I'm going to write the 7t plus 4 first, just because it's a little bit lower power than the t plus 4 quantity squared. I have the sine of the square root of t times t plus 4 quantity cubed. And then all of this is over. Everything's multiplying here, so everything is over that denominator. We're not needing to find a common denominator when you multiply. You just multiply all the numerators and put it over the multiplication of all the denominators. And there is the factored and simplified version of the derivative f prime of t.